with the wheels. I said last time about the old wheels on the Spit. You know, the factory Steelies are alright, don't get me wrong, with the old centre caps. That, you know, they're not bad, but they are still Steelies, aren't they? And they're a bit nasty. So I've been saying I'm going to get some alloys for a while. So, dun 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 dun, what's this? It's wheels. Now these aren't the ones I really wanted. These are the MGF 6-spoke square alloys. As you can see, they have 6 spokes and they are of a square profile. The ones I really wanted were the 5-spoke ones, but I couldn't find any at the right price, and I couldn't find any locally. These popped up locally to me, so I was able to go around and have a look. I'm very weary about buying wheels online because of course you don't know what you're getting. If there's cracks in them or they're warped or really badly curved, you know, it's a pain in the ass. So I wanted to go and have a look at them, and these were just down the road from me. They popped up for sale, I went round, whizzed round, and had them off the guy. Now, the middle two are 185 55 15s, and the outer two are 205s. So the plan was to put 205s on the rear, obviously, and the 185s on the front. Perfect, I thought. There'll be a drop-in replacement. No, no, no. No, they're not. First of all, most of these tyres have had it. So he said the tyres are good, but when I had a look on closer inspection, I mean, this one doesn't look too bad, but they are old. They're about 10, if not more, years old. This one has a screw in it, which is lovely. Again, I can get a screw repair, that's not an issue, but the problem is they're just a bit old. The other one's got signs of cracking, you can see there. We've got cracks in them, so all the tyres basically are going to need to be changed. So that was a bit annoying, because I was ideally looking for a set with tyres on that will be ready to go, but there we go. I appreciate when you buy second-hand wheels, you know, tyres are considered, you know, disposable as it were. These ones aren't going to stay silver. I'm going to strip clean, fill any curbing on these ones and respray them in gloss black. Because I think that will look quite cool, and obviously we'll just spray over the MG badges because, you know, it ain't an MG. So we need to get some new tyres for those. I've also had to order some new wheel studs because when I asked on the forums about putting replacement wheels on, I said I don't want anything messing around. You know, I don't want to mess around with wheel adapters, spacers, or anything like that. I just want something that will bolt straight on. And the consensus was, as long as you get something with the same stud pattern, which is the 95.25mm PCD, or 3.75 inch I believe it is, as long as you get something like that, it's essentially a drop-on replacement. Brilliant, I thought. Of course, when I came home and sort of took one of my wheels off and offered it up, you notice that the wheel studs aren't long enough, nor are they really beefy enough. And then when I asked again, it was like, oh, no, no, no. Bear with me 1 second, I've got to sneeze. Sneezes. And they said, no, no, you need to change the studs, obviously. And I thought, I was hoping I could just put them straight on. No, no, no. You've got to order these Freelander studs. And then knock the old ones out of the hub. Ugh. So I'm not looking forward to doing that, if I'm honest. Apparently it's reasonably straightforward. You just bash them out with a mallet. Obviously put the wheel nut on, give them a tap, drift them back in. The fronts are apparently reasonably straightforward. The back's not so, because obviously you've got the disc, the brake, whatchamacallit, hub disc thingy at the back. Some people are saying you've got to cut holes in that to get the bolts out. Other people are saying if you're careful and you do a little bit of jiggery pokery, they will come out. So I don't know. Obviously I'm not going to do that now until, well, A, I haven't got the studs, and B, I want to get those wheels ready first so that when I do put the studs on, I can put those wheels straight on. Otherwise, you know, if I get the studs done now and my wheels don't fit and I haven't got those ones with tyres on, I've got no car. I've got a car up on trestles, which is rubbish. So I'm going to wait for the studs to arrive. I'm going to order some open-ended wheel nuts because I'm not too sure obviously how much thread I'm going to have until they get here. So I'm just going to order some open-ended nuts. And they'll, you know, so that way it doesn't really matter. Apparently you can still use the original steel wheels as long as you've got the open-ended nuts. Because obviously I need a spare and I haven't got a 5th alloy, so I'm going to have to put a steely in the boot. So I want to be able to use the steels on the same studs. It's all a bit of a pain in the ass really. But you know, these old wheels are small. I've got 155s on it at the moment. I basically took it to the tyre shop and said, just put whatever you know you think's best on. So they put 155s on. So they're skinny as hell. Yep. And you can see the camber on the rear of the car there, or maybe you can, I don't know. But she's because of that transverse rear leaf spring, those wheels always sit at an angle like that. This being, you know, this side of the car, if you like, one here and one here. They've got this sort of angle to them, and obviously as the suspension moves on the road, that angle changes. As it goes down, it does this. So the consensus was you can't go too big on the back. You know, 205s you'll probably get away with. Anything bigger than that will be a bit of a stretch, because obviously the bigger you go on the wheel, the squarer the profile becomes on the bottom of the tyre. When you have 155s like mine, they're essentially this sort of shape. So as the wheel moves through its range of motion, you're not going to get uneven wear, you're still going to have a good contact patch with the road, whereas if you go for a wide wheel, it's going to sit right up on the corner. It's only going to make contact when you've got a lot of weight in the back. Hence why people back in the day used to put bags of cement in the boots of their cars, just to give the back end a bit more traction. And I didn't want to mess around with that, so I thought if I can find a set of wheels where they've got like 185s, 175s all rounds, that'll be fine. I don't want big chunky rear wheels, it's not a Mustang, you know, it's a Triumph. So now I need to replace the tyres on those. I can essentially go to whatever size I want. So I think just to be safe, I'll still go with 185s on the back, because to me, you know, they look plenty wide enough. That's a 185. Obviously it's only 30mm bigger than what I've got at the moment. I've got 155s, these are 185s. So they're plenty, you know, they're not overly big that way. That's a 205 just for comparison. And as long as you've got a decent sort of, you know, depth here. What are these? These 50s? Yeah, these are 50s. 205, 50, 15s. So probably something like a 55. So as long as you've got a decent sort of depth on it, you'll still, you know, won't be too harsh a ride. Because that's the other thing you don't want, right? You don't want a harsh ride. These little low cars are reasonably hard riding anyway, when compared to modern cars, which are obviously much higher. You've got more spring, more suspension. These ones are a bit hard on the road as is. So I don't want it to be too hard. I don't want it to rattle my teeth out. My teeth are, you know, knackered already. So I think we'll look for 185, 55, 15s all round on those wheels, Freelander studs, open-ended nuts, bish bash bosh. Hopefully that should be the end of it, but who knows. Right, next thing to do is give these a good clean, because as you can see they're a bit minging, especially on the insides. Got a little cleaning bench set up, don't tell the wife, and here's two I've just done. Obviously they're going to have marks in them, but these are all going to get sanded back, keyed, ready for respray anyway, so not too bothered. Any big gouges like here, any curbing marks, we'll get in there and we'll fill that, sand them back and get them nice and flush. But to be fair, they're not actually too bad. That's all four done, and we've just been down to the tyre shop, so we've got some shiny new treads. So before we had staggered fitment, we had 205s on the back and 185s on the front. I've gone for 185s all round because, like I said before, I'm a little bit cautious about putting a wheel with too much of a large flat profile on the back because of the camber on the back. The camber is reasonably pronounced on the car, so, you know, and obviously I'm worried about kicking out past the arches, all that kind of good stuff. So we've gone for 185s all round, keep things simple, and the other advantage that gives you obviously is that you can swap tyres around, right? The front two wheels on this are for steering, the rear two wheels are for driving, so if we get excessive wear on either one of the corners, we can switch them around and reuse them, so that's all good. Don't ask about the tyres. I always go for budgets on my cars. I'm not one of these guys who drives a million miles, so I always go with budgets, and they last me, you know, a really long time. So we have got on these ones, what are these? Westlake Super Eco. Not Super Eco, Super Eco. So, you know, definitely the best thing you can get. Pretty gangster, right? And as I've said, they are 185, 55, 15s. So hopefully they should fit. You know, I think 55 is a reasonable balance between, you know, having a nice look to your wheel, but also having some of that suspension effects that you get in the wheels. Because apparently, you know, I'm no tyre expert or wheel expert by any means, but apparently it's the tyre
that does a lot of the suspension for you. If you've got a nice thick, you know, wide profile, sorry, not wide, as in depth, you know, like the 55 bit. If you've got a good amount of depth between the tyre and your rim, you're going to get a softer ride on the road. As soon as you start going for these super low profile, stretched, you know, things all the boy racers have, man, the ride is harsh. My mate used to have a van that was lowered with low profiles on it, 19s I think, and my God, it was a spine shatterer. Any pothole in the road, any you know grain of rice in the road and damage, shake your fillings out your head. Horrible, horrible to drive. Looks amazing when it's parked, you know, but to drive there has to be that. And this is a driving car, right? You know, it's, like I said, it's not a show car. I don't want it to look like super gangster with low profiles, or I'm not bothered with that. Having it slammed to the eyeballs. I'd have airbags because they look cool, don't they? So, but you know, I'm not going to. But it's a driver, so I want it to be a comfortable drive. I don't want it rattling my teeth out. So hopefully that's a good balance. Hopefully they fit. Now my wheel studs have turned up. I've got the old Freelander studs, which are the ones that get mentioned on forums, and apparently they are a straight swap. So apparently it's a case of knock the old studs out, put the new studs in, and hey presto, you're good to go. Now, until I actually do the job myself, I'm very like, you know, because these new studs are bigger. Obviously they're longer, but they're also wider. The old studs are 3/8 of an inch, I believe, and the new ones are 12mm metric. So it's not far apart, is it? Because if an inch is 25mm, then half of that is 12.5. and 3/8 of an inch is just less than half as well, so they're about the same. Anyway, I've put the two together, looked at a Triumph wheel stud next to one of these Freelander studs, and the studs aren't wide. So that's a job for this weekend. So for you it'll be in a minute, but for me it's going to be 5 or 6 days away, and like I say, I'm not looking forward to it. Something about banging those old studs out. It should be pretty straightforward, right? Screw a wheel nut onto the stud, you know, to give you a bigger surface area, put a bit of wood on it, bash it with a lump hammer, knock the studs out, fish them out the back, put your new studs in, put the wheel nuts on with a few washers to act as a spacer, use the wheel nut to draw the new stud in, and then put the new wheels on. That should be it. Some people say on the rears you have to drill a hole in the backing plate where the brake drum sits so you can fish the studs out through there. Some people say you can just actually, if you just do a bit of jiggery pokery, you can actually pull the studs out without doing anything. Other people saying they had to take the brake shoes off. I don't know, I'm going to have to see when I get there. But as soon as you start banging studs out, you get into that point then where you're sort of beyond the point of no return, aren't you? Because you've now started banging wheel studs out. You can't just go, oh well, put the wheels back on, go for a drive. No, once you start, you either carry on all the way or go back to where you were. And having just paid £220 for my new tyres, I don't want to go back, you know, and put the old ones on again unless I have to. So I guess we're going to find out. Either way, I'm not looking forward to it. I've just got this feeling in my bones. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. I really, really hope I'm wrong. Of course, I could just cut the old studs off, couldn't I? Because I'm not going to use them again. So I could just cut them off, bang whatever's left through, and that'll just fall out. So that'd be the simple way. But of course, then I've got to put the new studs in. So I'd rather know how to get the studs out to reverse it to put the new ones in, if that makes sense. Obviously, I can't cut the new ones in half and fit them in. That no. Right, big box full of Freelander studs. And a bag full of, I got some black ones because I'm still not sure whether to paint the wheels black or leave them silver. So we've got black ones for the moment. Open-ended nuts because just in case they're, you know, too short, too long, open-ended, no problem. So. Right, it's that day. I've been putting this off for a week. I say putting it off, I haven't had time, I've been at work. But it's time to get these on there. It's a beautiful day as well, guys. Look at this. Nice sunny day. I've got a couple of hours to get this done. I'm heading out into town now for a couple of the old wobble pops with a friend. So, yeah. Time is
time's a problem.
We've got our Freelander, what are they called? Sorry, it's early. You know, bolts. Wheel studs, that's the one I'm looking for. I'll put the part number for these on the screen. It's widely known, but I'll put them on the screen anyway. And then we have some matching lug nuts. Let's get the front wheel off the car. My plan is, just to make sure these studs fit, is to get the front wheel off, drift one stud out, pull one stud in, just to make sure the studs actually fit the hubs. People say they do, and I'm sure they do, but you know, for my own peace of mind. And then once we've got one wheel on, well, let's just get on with it, basically.
Well, we didn't get far. So much for these being a drop-in replacement. That's the old stud. She came out no problem at all. A couple taps with a lump hammer, she came straight out. New stud. It's too long. You cannot fish it in through the back because it hits here. I know it fits, but it ain't a lot good in that way. So we've just cut one down slightly and see if that works. No, still too long. The old one, she fishes right on in there because it's a narrower pitch on the thread. Sorry, narrow, you know, narrower actual thread size. She goes in straight. But these ones with a wider thread, they do not go on there. So, how is this meant to be a direct replacement? Somebody tell me, because at the moment I ain't getting it.
Success. So after my earlier, I say earlier, it was actually last weekend, my meltdown about having to remove the hubs to get these new Freelander studs in. Got one off, got one set done. This is the fronts we're talking about. I haven't even tackled the backs yet, and I know the backs can be a bit, sometimes people saying you have to drill holes in the back plate where the brake shoes are to get them through. Other people saying you don't have to. As always, who do you listen to? I don't know. But what I can tell you is I've got one done. So let's back this up and show you how I did it. It's actually pretty straightforward, to be honest, and if I can do it, then man, Jesus, look at my hands. Then yeah, anyone can. It isn't that hard. So let's go through the process very quickly.
So first of all, here is my hub with my new Freelander studs. So, as you can see, I'm doing it in my amazing garage space again, all 10 inches of it down the side, purely because the wife needs to get her car out later, so I can't stick the old thing here, so I've got to do it here. At least if I do it here, I can leave it and come back to it. If it's out there, I can't really leave it on the driveway because we need the driveway. So anyway, first of all, as one would expect, pull the wheel off, right? Here we go. You can see my stub axle there and my very tarnished back plate. So when you pull the wheel off, you're going to be faced with this little fella, which is your grease cap. Okay, now some people are saying you can put a screw in these to pull them off. Other people are saying you can lever them off. I tried, I was here for an hour or so, it didn't come off. I ended up hammering a flat bladed screwdriver through it and then wrenching it off because I bought two more. These are £4 each on eBay. Okay, you get a pair of them for £8 with free postage. So for £4, I'm not messing around with it. Hammer it in, pull it off like an old oil filter. That comes off. Then you'll be left facing your castle nut, which has a split pin through it. Split pin here. Very simply, bend the split pin, pull it out with a pair of pliers, spin your castle nut off. Obviously your castle nut isn't done up tight because obviously it holds the bearings in place, so this one you can almost spin it off by hand. It is nice and loose. As soon as you then start to pull the hub off towards you, the forward wheel bearing, which is this little chap, is just going to want to fall out. So just take it out now before it falls on the concrete and you chip one of the races. You can inspect it while it's out, have a look at it, but you know, you'll probably know if your wheel bearings are good or bad. So that one just comes out. There is this cover over the face of it, which holds the wheel bearing in. You can see that's the side that interacts with the bearing, because that's where there's no grease on it. That's the side that the nut does up against. So, you know, I always try and keep these things the right way up if I can. At this point, once that nut is off, the whole thing will just slide off.
this is your stub axle. If you wanted to take the stub axle out, there's one more nut on the back of it, and that stub axle would come out. So out you come. You can see you've got your holes there in the end of the spindle for your cotter pin to go through. You're meant to replace the cotter pins. I haven't got one. That one I'm sure will be absolutely fine. You know me. Once we got it off, then you flip it upside down, and this is the back of the brake disc. And here you're going to have 4 bolts, and naturally these are going to be rusted to shit. I believe they're 9/16, which is, what's that, 15 in metric, or say 15 is actually too big. I still haven't got any imperial sockets. I know, stop shouting at me, I should do. But a 15 will get those off. Clamp her in the vise, get your 15 on it, give the old heave-ho, pull those off. At which point, obviously your hub is going to be here, on this side. It's going to be very stubborn to get it off. It ain't just going to fall off. I had to basically chisel mine off. Went round it with a lump hammer first of all, just to loosen up, and then got the old flat-bladed screwdriver in behind, down in here, and just started to work it away, because it is, again, rusted in with this inner ring here. As soon as you can get the width of a screwdriver in between the two, it should just pop straight off. Obviously that's the hard part. Once you've got that hub off, you can then knock your old studs out. You're meant to screw your wheel nut on just to stop from fouling the threads. My old studs are knackered. I'm not bothered, so I just crack them with a lump hammer. They just come straight out the bottom. As you can see, this is one I've cut down earlier. They have splines on them, so that's what stops them from spinning when you're trying to do your wheel nuts up. So there's nothing holding them in other than friction. Give them a good wallop, bonk, out they come. This is the front of the hub, obviously, and this is obviously where that wheel bearing goes in there. The other wheel bearing is sat in the back underneath this felt washer. I was very careful, you know, I mean I could just pull the washer out and pull the bearing out. I didn't see the need to, so I've left that one in situ. Also, if you're going to whale away on the ends of those threads, make sure you put it on something like a bit of carpet or whatever, just to stop you fouling that, destroying the bearing or anything else. At this point, obviously you just put your new Freelander studs in and then tap them in from the back. You could, of course, pull them in with the wheel nuts, but, you know, what's the point in having them spin on you? You know, it's just not worth doing. While you've got it off, get a bit of grease on them, as you can see, just to make it easier in case you ever want to change them again, or for the next fella, whoever. Find something on them. I used one of these that I'd already cut down for experimental purposes. Give them a tap with a mallet on top. Drift them in nice and slowly, just to make sure all the splines line up. If you get a stubborn one that doesn't want to go down, pull it out, clock it a little bit, put it back down again. Obviously they want to go in naturally on the old, you know what I mean, those grooves there. Drift them in. You can see I haven't drifted these ones all the way down. The first time you put the wheel on and crank it up, it's going to pull those studs true anyway. So I've just got them in far enough for the moment that I know they're not going to start to spin on me once I get the wheel on. And that's it. These are your new grease caps. Obviously they just hammer on. I say put them on nice and carefully after you've packed them, obviously full of grease. And these are the nuts that came out of the back of that brake disc that was holding this onto the hub. So those go in there. They hold the brake disc on the back. These, as you can see, the heads on them are very rusty. Obviously they get all the weather on them, they get the brake powder, all that kind of shit. And as you can see by the threads, they've all got a nice bit of rust in them. So we're going to get some copper slip on those bad boys. I can't do it with one hand. It's copper slip. Get them back on, disc back on, and in true Haynes fashion, reassemble as you did the first time round. Only then will I be able to get one of my wheels on to actually see whether they go on, they foul the arches or anything else. So it's a really convoluted process, but you know, sometimes you just have to go do or die when it comes to these things. If it doesn't fit, whatever, I'll put the old studs back in, put the steelies back on. It's taken me 30 minutes, 40 minutes to do that. It really isn't that bad. Once you get that grease cap off, the rest of it is plain sailing. And obviously trying to get these old studs out. Like I say, I think they're a 9/16, but so if you've got obviously imperial sockets, use them properly. I keep meaning to invest in a set, and I will, because obviously every time you take these off with a metric socket, you risk fouling them. In fact, the first one did get a little bit chewed up. I had to hammer them out of my 15mm sockets because they do give a little twist inside. So don't do what I did and use a 15. Use the proper imperial sizes. And I think that's about it. So I'm going to put this hub back, hopefully back together now, repack it with grease, put it all back together, stick the wheel back on, roll her outside and see how she sits with that wheel on. If it's all good, I may attempt the other one now, I may not. I've just finished work for the day, so you know, I want to go and sit down and have a, you know, something fizzy. But you know, I also want to get this done as well. So if I can get both done today, I will do. But it is a bit of a faff. Obviously, every time I want to do something with the car, I've got to roll it outside a little bit, realign it, try and bring it back in tight to the wall, and all that kind of jazz. It's a ball ache. So if you're one of those people blessed with a lovely garage, congratulations. I envy the shit out of you. But as always, you've got to make do what you got, right? So enough of this. Let's get this back on, and hopefully it all fits. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. Sorry, the other thing I forgot to say was obviously you have to take the brake caliper off in order to pull the hub forward. Obviously the disc is attached to the hub and the caliper goes around the disc, so you do have to take the caliper off. 2 bolts on the back of the caliper, nice and simple. Yeah, very simple, 2 bolts. 16mm in metric, don't know what that is in imperial, that's a bit of a weird size. I'm sorry, I keep going on at metric sizes. I know it's like really taboo, but a 16mm got them out. Bit of a palaver lining them up again. You've got to sort of wiggle the caliper backwards and forwards to try and get the bolt to drop in. Took me longer to get the caliper back on than it did to do the rest of it all together, so them's the brakes. However, the wheel's on, the car's done. Let's go and have a quick look. See, she's sitting a bit weird at the back already. There you go, that's the new wheel versus the old wheel. I mean, it's a vast improvement from the Steelies, isn't it? I know the Steelies are like, you know, period correct and all that, but they are Steelies, you know, they don't look very good. But the old alloy, she looks nice. I haven't tested it on full lock yet, just to make sure she doesn't touch any of the arches or anything. So fingers crossed, it's all going to be okay. Doesn't stick out much more than the other one, to be honest. I thought it might stick out a little bit, but it doesn't actually look too bad. Front bonnet needs a bit of realignment. Since I put those gas struts in the bonnet, it's gone a bit of a weird shape. So yeah, that's the old steel in terms of side profile. Just sort of comes level with the arch at the top there. And that's that one. You can see it just protrudes a little bit more on the arch, but not more. And that wheel has got a slight lock on it. If you're wondering what that drip is underneath my car, I'm currently in the process of putting a new gasket onto the thermostat housing. It's been leaking ever since I've got it, and it's a pain in the ass. And I keep putting a bit of silicone around it, trying to get it to stop dripping, and it never does. I've done it twice now, so I've ordered the proper gasket for it. It's a pain in the ass, but yeah, so that's why. Flush the system, wait on the gasket for that, then we can put that back in. But yeah, I think they look quite cool. I still haven't decided whether to spray them black or not. That's the one thing I can't decide on. They do look quite nice in silver, because obviously they go with the rest of the chrome trim on the car, so I may well leave them silver. But I also do like gloss black, because that'll go nice with the interior, so I don't know. If anyone out there is a good with Photoshop wizardry, let me know. I'll send you a still and you can make them go black, because I'm damned if I can. Paint is about my still as good as I am with digital imaging on a computer. So that's one done. Afternoon's getting on a bit now. We're going to leave it for the time being, and we'll come back and we'll do the other one. Another day. Never simple, but my pile of 4 alloys is now a pile of 3 alloys. Hopefully it'll soon be a pile of 4 steels, and then we're good to go. Everything else worked fine, by the way. You know, that's my water. I was going to reuse it, because, you know, what's the point in pouring coolant away if there's nothing wrong with it? But that has got a bit of rust and a bit of sediment in the bottom, so I think we will probably bin that one. So yeah, so the Freelander studs, no problem at all. Perfect length, like I say, pack of 20 of them on eBay. So they're perfect length, obviously minus pulling the hubs off. New grease cups, again, £8 a pair on eBay.
they're a perfect fit. When they arrived in the box, I thought they were too small. I was like, they sent me the wrong ones. These are way too small. But no, they are indeed the right ones. Pack them full of grease, hammer them back on. And then, of course, I went for the old black open-ended wheel nuts because I thought I was going to be painting the wheels black, so I bought them black just in case. And as I say, they're open-ended wheel nuts just in case the stud length was a bit weird. But I haven't torqued this wheel down to spec yet, which I'll do in a minute because I will forget and I'll go out with them on finger tight. But you can just see there that stud protruding about 4mm through it. So that's why I didn't want to go for the closed wheel nuts in case I bought the wrong size and couldn't do them all the way up. At least this way, yes, the studs show through, but at least this way you know that they're going to go on okay. And obviously at some point we'll pop the centre caps off and either put a Triumph logo on it or we'll just paint over it. Right, I'm going to torque that one down now while I'm thinking about it, and then we'll crack on with the rest of them another day.